Good evening.
Hi.
I'm just looking what time it is. It is, if I can find me, 11 o'clock in the evening. Last show of the day. 4 shows today? Almost 4, wasn't it?
Yes, I've lost my bit of paper.
I think this was show 42. It's only 41, 42. I'll get a handle on how many shows we're doing.
4.
If you've not been here before, we're Ian and Jane, and we're doing the Edinburgh Festival Fringe 2022, and this was we were asked to review this by the theatre company because we'd seen their show last year, which was Afterparty, a 5-girl, I think we gave it 4 stars, brilliant production, and it's the theatre company is F-Bomb Theatre. Anyway, they contacted us fairly early on and said, would we like to come and see their show? Now, we've been trying to get to see this since we arrived, and we've only just managed it. And you don't have a lot of time to see it because it finishes on the 13th, and obviously today is the 10th. 11th. 2 days you've got. It may tour though, so anyway, the Beatles were a boy band. It's not really about the Beatles. Well,
No, I thought it was going to be the Beatles. The Beatles were a boy band, new writing drama. Violet's scared walking home. Daisy fights to make it safer. And Heather, she's just over it. Women's theatre company F-Bomb follows their sellout debut with a new play exploring the impact of male violence.
and there is a bit more on the Fringe
website.
Scottish Women's Theatre Company F-Bomb returns following the sellout Fringe debut Afterparty, and it was last year. It was a sellout with a radical new play by award-winning playwright Rachel O'Regan. The Beatles Were a Boy Band is an urgent and unapologetic feminine response to the misogyny, bad vibes only. That's what it says.
Yeah. So, three young women sharing a flat, and so the themes obviously come into the sort of, as we watch them live their lives, basically. One goes out late at night, and the others are very worried about her coming back on her own. They can't believe she's walked across town.
And this is based in Edinburgh.
Yes,
it's not based in London.
And then another of the girls, Daisy, has an online. I can't. What did she sell?
She's like an influencer. She
sold some kind of product
online.
But then she was affected by a story of male violence. A young woman was murdered, and I'm pretty sure it's Sarah Everard.
Yeah.
And it's so she loses her influence, but she has. She shouts when she's actually filming, so it's out there on social media. And then throughout the play, she starts getting really, really abusive messages, and they are horrible. And I mean, they're not making this up.
This is the world.
This is real life
of today.
Because we know that those messages get sent. I was just going to say, I've actually seen and had some of those messages. Now, what I will say is, the sort of abuse that men get. I mean, I have been trolled on this channel, but
the amount of abuse that men get seems to be nothing compared to what women get. You know, and we've been saying for a long time, this really isn't okay, and something needs to be done about it. You know.
So this was, you know, an important. And I mean, at the end, I mean, it was the theatre was full.
It was, yeah.
And you could hear the young women's voices shouting, and a lot of people gave them a standing ovation at the end. And then Heather, that's the character's name, we keep getting glimpses of, she's obviously, something's happened to her in the past, and eventually it all comes out. We never actually find out what happened, but there is a short scene where she's obviously being interviewed by the police. And we both, it made us think of, we saw the recent stream Jodie Comer play called Prima Facie. And that is about a similar, it's basically how sexual abuse doesn't fit the the English judicial system.
Maybe slightly different here in Scotland.
And it was mirrored by Heather, you know, the answers, you know, how much should you have to drink, how short was your skirt, you know, why were you out so late?
And they were covering things like, you know, the business that girls have to, or girls and women have to, you know, pretend to be on their phone, or they have to have their keys in hand. I mean, the Jodie Comer thing, the thing that really resonated with me was the idea that women have to bark like a dog to make the men think they're unhinged, which was...
And there was a line in the play tonight that's very similar to that, in the fact that women are told to shout fire rather than rape, because that actually gets more attention.
Which is ridiculous. It's absolutely
so,
ludicrous.
I mean, they brought out, I mean, you know, this makes it sound as though it was a very misogyny, you know, sort of men-hating play. But it wasn't. It was just pointing out those issues that are very current.
I mean, you could have argued that they clearly know that not all men are potential rapists, and this isn't all of men, but they didn't cover that at all from a male perspective. Do you know what I mean?
Sorry, I don't.
Well, they didn't. Everything was aimed at men within the piece. There was never any hint that a good percentage of men in society are not misogynistic. They're not raped. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know whether what you felt about that. I mean, I'm just taking that from a male. It was a predominantly female audience, but there were guys like me in there.
But I think, I suppose I have to take it from the perspective of, I mean, they did actually say at the end, you know, the message was aimed at men. I mean, they did say that. But I think you also have to, I take from that, I mean, if you're ever in a situation, you know, that those men will think about what they might say to somebody else, another man. Equally, to make young women aware of the potential dangers. I mean that seems a bit crazy, because I think people are, but then some people maybe don't think about it and don't take it seriously.
Well, the reality is that you know, women have the right to go out on a night out or whatever and get, and however they go home, they have the right to feel safe, and we're in a society where that is not the case. No. And we have, you know, society has to change. Whether it will or not is a whole different
I mean,
thing.
I've walked home and had my keys, you know, in my hand. And I'm also of an age, and I lived in Manchester in the early 80s when the Yorkshire Ripper was around, and we went nowhere on our own.
This isn't something that's just appeared in the last 10 years. This has been going on. I mean, I remember when we lived in our first house, and I was walking home late from, we used to be able to walk out of town to our house.
And this is York.
And this is York. And I was very conscious that I was walking through these quite dark streets, and there was a girl in front of me, and I wanted to I almost wanted to say to her, look, I'm really not, but I walked a different way so she didn't think that I was following her. We just happened to be walking the same way. And I was very conscious about, I didn't want her to feel uncomfortable. But then again, I also thought, well, maybe I should be walking the same way, because we are walking this way. What if somebody else, I mean, it's difficult really, because...
And also, I mean, really what the play was addressing were those people that send those horrible text messages, who troll women with death threats and far worse than that.
It's too.
I mean, how do you stop them?
Yeah, it's too easy to make a fake profile. I mean, all of the sort of negative stuff that I see, most of it comes through YouTube rather than Twitter. But most of the stuff that I see are fake profiles. Somebody's out to get a ride out of me, and I actually just ignore that stuff. But actually, if you're getting loads of it, like Daisy was, there's a point at where you start to think that these people are going to come and get you. And we've seen,
she was terrified.
Caroline, I forgot her surname, the presenter from, we never watched Love Island, but the presenter who committed suicide. I mean, that poor girl's mental health. I mean, she had terrible trolling on social media.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, what we're doing is we're talking about it, out of the play, but it's all those themes.
It's a really important piece of work.
So people go take away from that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was great because as we came out, and if we think it was the lady that was the director, she was either the director or the writer.
Yeah, she was
handing out rape alarms to anybody that wanted one, which is fantastic.
Which is brilliant, but it shouldn't have to happen. But it's brilliant that she worked,
gosh, what? Oh, you've got it. Sorry.
Yeah.
And so this really comprehensive, you could pick these up. This
there's also a lot of stuff on the back, isn't there?
Yeah, well, I was just going to point out that. Yeah. So there's a piece, a written piece from somebody. They're thanking all their supporters, but then on the back there's a whole thing about where to go for support, and that's. All in Edinburgh and Scotland, and numbers and contacts, and there's also a campaign, Walk Easy. So I mean, it that's great, because hopefully a lot of people pick those up, and especially if they're local, they'll keep it, so they've got numbers, and just think about their own safety, but equally. As the play was trying to make the point out, why?
Yeah.
Why do women have to?
Why do women have to
think about it?
Because they, in a perfect society, it shouldn't be. I mean,
well, and
the women's got a right to be safe.
Yeah, but there was a horrible statistic that.
Yeah.
Every 3 days.
Somebody gets murdered.
Yeah, a woman gets murdered.
Yeah. There was a whole load of statistics that they gave out, which were very sobering, really.
And then there was a link at the end to the arrests that happened at the Sarah Everard Vigil.
Yes.
During lockdown. So.
Yeah. So it was. It had nothing to do with the Beatles, although to be fair, they did reference the Beatles.
They were referenced.
They were referenced,
but obviously not in the
context.
No.
They also referenced people like Taylor Swift and other things.
But really strong piece by a very talented
theatre company.
Yeah,
and we'll come and see their work again because we enjoyed Afterparty last year, and I think this is just a strong piece, really.
Yeah, it is.
Hopefully it might tour. If it tours, and you might get to see it, But certainly, if you've got 2 days to see it, but make a note of the name. I've dropped it actually. F Bomb Theatre.
Yeah.
How many stars?
4.
Yeah, 4. It's easy. It's an easy 4, isn't it?
So it's a strong 4.
It's a very strong piece of, female written and female performed work.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well done. Okay.
Yeah.
So thanks very much. We've got more. We're off to Summers Hall. Not Summers
Summer Hall.
We're going to Summer Hall tomorrow for 3 shows. Then we're back here. Then we're back for there. So I've planned that day rather better than some of the other ones where we've been all over the place. But so 4 or 5 shows tomorrow, and we'll see you then. So night.
Cheers.
Take it easy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.